What is up, everybody? It is Scott joining you again for another cracking Premier League game. We've got Chelsea and Manchester United about to kick off. Before I switch it, please go and follow me on all of these platforms at Beatty's Beat. Also, check out my YouTube page wherever you can find that. And we are about to get underway. I'll give you the lineups, and you can get chatting to me in the comments. All right. So Chelsea is coming off their Champions League match with Sevilla, I believe, and Olivier Giroud is continuing his electric form in the Champions League, which has given him the start today, which at the start of the season probably would have surprised many people, but the 34-year-old has certainly been in a rich vein of form, and we are underway here. There we go. Oh, that's timers go off. Please bear with me while I set my game clock. 25 set. And alrighty. All right. So yeah, I think we're gonna grab Tom Fahey for the watch along here. He's a good friend of mine, Manchester United fan. Maybe BG of BG Barbershop, big Chelsea fan. We'll see who we can get here in the comments, and hopefully we'll get a good game here. It started pretty quickly, I'm going to lose this jacket, actually. Pretty fast start, which I am glad to see because a lot of times these games can be pretty touchy. But I'm excited to tune in and see my first watching of a Thomas Tuchel game for Chelsea. I myself, again, for those who are new to the channel, I am a Liverpool fan, so just watching as a neutral here. But I'll be interested to see how Tuchel has this Chelsea team playing. If I were a Chelsea fan, I'd be very happy with the Tuchel appointment. I think he's a perfect kind of manager for where Chelsea are at. I think that he's a perfect mix of, has the right sort of reputation, plays the right style. His intensity, I think, is really going to be needed for really getting the most out of this Chelsea team. And I say that because on paper, Chelsea have what could be a title-winning team. I like a lot of their players. Obviously, they went gangbusters on their off-season. And that was something that Lampard really struggled with in terms of finding his best 11, and I don't think any Chelsea fan or otherwise can really claim that that Mr. Lampard had all of his players figured out. Pardon me. So Chelsea starting with more of the ball here. They are the home team. Oh yeah, let me read you off the lineups. Tuchel made 3 changes to the Champions League team. I believe those different players were sorry. So the Chelsea team is Mendy in goal, Azpilicueta, Christensen, Rudiger, 3 at the back, 3-4-2-1. Hudson-Odoi, Conte, Kovacic, Chilwell, Ziyech, Mount, and Giroud. I'll be interested to see how this actually plays out, because you play 3 at the back. Some people would call it like a 5-3-2, because like the wing back component, but he's got, at least the way it's listed, is Hudson-Odoi as the right wide player and Chilwell as the left wide player. So Chilwell certainly more of a defensive player, and Hudson-Odoi obviously being an attacking player. So that doesn't really seem to be balanced to me, but I'll be curious to see how Chelsea really do line up on the pitch. They've got. I'm a fan of Mason Mount. I think he's an exciting young player, but that's really shown maturity, and he's not even an exciting young player anymore. I think that you have to say that he's an established Premier League player. Manchester United. Almost going on a counterattack there, winning the ball high up in Chelsea's area, but a foul is deemed to be committed on Mason Mount. Also, let me know what your thoughts are on yesterday's absolute debacle of the match between Brighton and, forgive me, I even forget who they were playing. Right. Anyway, the Lee Mason catastrophe. I was irate about the standard of refereeing that is going on in today's game. The Premier League is at its absolute peak in terms of popularity and global appeal and money and all of that. And the refereeing, at least in my lifetime, has never been worse. And I blame that on VAR. I don't want to get totally into a VAR conversation at the minute, but it's really causing referees to second guess themselves. And yesterday was just a calamity of decisions by Lee Mason, and it totally could cost Brighton. I mean, it's going to impact one way or another the relegation outlook for the rest of this season. I mean, last season you saw the huge mistake that resulted in Villa being able to keep their place in the Premier League. I mean, I would argue that Villa should be in the Championship right now. And so credit to Villa for having one hell of a season, now getting way off track. But it just goes to show that it is a game of fine margins, and referees have gotten much, much worse in the last 3 years. And the fact that Lewis Dunk, who smartly, waited for the whistle, played it quickly, scored the goal while it was against, I'm gonna have to look it up. This is embarrassing. I forgot. I was so angry yesterday. Now I can't even remember. Oh, it was against West Brom. That's right. It was Sam Johnson that was on the post and getting set, and that's the goalkeeper's responsibility. You can't have a referee pulling play back because he feels bad that the goalkeeper wasn't ready. He blew his whistle, and that goal really should have stood. And I'm not here to listen to anyone that says, "Oh, well, Brighton, blew it by not converting their penalties." They had 2 penalties in one game, missing both of them, which is just kind of crazy. I mean, it adds to the whole drama of the situation. But to me, it's a total distraction. I mean, Brighton 100% should have had a goal in that game from the free kick I'm talking about. And they were robbed of that. The fact that they missed 2 penalties, they could have missed 5 penalties. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, if you're a Brighton fan, sure, you can look at it differently or, be disappointed that you've missed 2 penalties. But to me, any comments like that are just a distraction away from the conversation that Lee Mason robbed Brighton of that goal. And anyway, enough said on that. Chime in below in the comments if you have any thoughts on that. But for now, we're coming up to the 10th minute of the game, or we're in the 10th minute of the game. Chelsea have a corner. Mason Mount placing the ball down. And has been Chelsea with much of the ball here. No clear-cut chances just yet. McTominay sort of heads away. Greenwood, and interesting advantage here. United on like a somewhat of a slow break. First it was Mason Greenwood that headed the ball away. Then Daniel James had the ball completely chopped down, total foul. It then bounces out wide to Bruno, who plays it first time, sort of a floated, curled ball right into the path of Rashford. Not a perfect ball, but definitely getting United going. He tries to play it back to Greenwood, who's making a run through the middle of the pitch, and Chelsea are able to clear it away. But it did seem to be opening up as the ball was on its path forward, that this could be somewhat of a breakaway situation, but N'Golo Kante was able to backtrack and certainly get in Rashford's way so as to block any sort of clear path that he would have had. Gotta fix my clock here. Again, please do comment below and let me know who you are and where you're watching from. I'm just getting started with this streaming channel. I did start on Twitch, and that was going well for a start, and then I decided that I also wanted to be on YouTube, and I found this great website called Restream.io, and they're able to broadcast out onto all the different platforms at once. So the more the merrier. And so regardless of where you're tuning in from, please let me know who you are and what you like about the channel, what you'd like to see more. And yeah, I'm broadcasting from Monmouth County, New Jersey, and glad to have any and all people in the chat. Coming together here between Mason Mount and McTominay, both players in similar agony down on the floor. Ooh, and that was a bit of an ugly one. Nothing malicious there, but both at about like stomach height, the ball bouncing, and Mount goes first and doesn't quite come up with the ball, and then McTominay has a good probably 5 or 6 inches on Mason Mount, and he goes to get the ball. I think he does get the ball, but by that time, Mount's body is on the trajectory downward, and McTominay awkwardly sort of gets his foot sort of hung up on the young Englishman's body, and somehow, I mean, this is one of these fouls that, I don't even know who hey, you're fun. What's up, brother? Thanks for tuning in. Big Inter fan. I appreciate you watching. I don't know if you've Ooh, interesting. Excuse me one second while Rashford takes a bit of like a Cristiano Ronaldo style free kick with the instep like straight on and with the dip and everything. And it did look awkward for Mendy, although it really wasn't perfectly placed by any means. So he was able to deal with it rather easily. Although, like I said, he did have the knuckle effect going. Um, yeah, Irfan, let me know, is there any Premier League team that you have even a slight allegiance to? I know my friend Irfan is a diehard Inter fan, but I've never gotten the chance to ask him if he actually has any sort of allegiance or preference for any sort of English team. Of course, he's very tight with my buddy Fahey as well, who is a diehard Manchester United fan. So I don't know if there's any sort of friendly, um, allegiance there. But yeah, this game should be a very. Oh, okay. Here we go. We're looking at VAR for a possible handball against Mason. Well, I guess it wouldn't be Mason Green against Hudson Odoi. I mean, there's nothing to see here. There might be some incidental, contact on the fingers, but this is a loose ball dropping out, bouncing around the box as Chelsea were attempting to clear that saved free kick from Rashford. And like I said, Greenwood and Hudson Odoi are both going for the ball 50-50. And no penalty given. Oh, Irfan saying clear handball, I think. On who? On Hudson Odoi? Again, the ball is just bouncing around there, and he's trying to grapple with Greenwood. I don't. To me, that's not. And listen, for anybody out there watching this, and most of you won't know me by now. Again, I'm just starting out on the channel, but when I give my opinion on these things, I'm not judging based off of the 2021 rules of like, oh well, you've seen them given. I hate that commentator cliche that when anytime a commentator says you've seen them given, I mean you're really just surrendering your opinion, and you're really allowing the I don't know what to call it. I mean, forgive me for a back of the letter word. I'm just going to say liberalization of fouls, of handballs, and the game is getting pretty soft these days, very soft. Irfan said, "Looked awkward. Syria would have it." Haha. Yeah, I mean, I would have been pissed if that were given against my team. So Chelsea reloading, and Christensen has the ball, swings it over to Azpilicueta, over to Hudson Odoi. So it does look like there is. I mean, Tuchel is tactically does have balance in terms of the left and right side, as I was saying earlier, with Hudson Odoi and Ben Chilwell, not really at all any sort of similarity in terms of players, but they are both, I guess, in their own way, occupying the left and right wide areas. I guess on some level, it doesn't really make total sense to me, but on some level, all players have their defensive duties. So even wingers and wing backs alike will have their duties when you're in possession as well as out of possession. So from that standpoint, sure, I guess. Oh, interesting little back flick from Kovacic. Irfan, what are your thoughts on Kovacic? Obviously, former Inter player. I remember we're going back a good like 6 or 7 years now, but he was a young, attacking Croatian midfielder, and I have allegiances to Croatia through my buddy Steve Sukar. So anyway, at that point in time, it was sort of like two teams or countries that I like kind of coming together between Liverpool and Croatia. When I was hearing that, there was this whole transfer saga where there were very advanced reports that Kovacic had already signed for Liverpool, and of course it wasn't to be. And then I think, if my memory serves me correctly, he went from Inter to Madrid, and then he got loaned to Chelsea. Now he's permanently there. But anyway, now he's really more of a sort of all-around midfielder. I mean, Chelsea fans can let me know with a bit more certainty, but I feel like a lot of players these days like come up as an attacking midfielder, as like a 10, but then once they actually kind of grow into their own and mature as players, then they sort of really become more of a mishmash. I mean, look at Gini Wijnaldum's actually a pretty good example. I mean, he was playing left wing a lot of the time for Newcastle, and then he came to Liverpool, and if you ask a lot of Liverpool fans, he is one of the most boring Liverpool midfielders. I mean, those are not my words. I have great respect. I love Gini. Super important to the Liverpool team, but certainly not the same attacking prowess as he had and displayed at Feyenoord and Newcastle. Irfan said, loved him. So much potential, missing the attacking third part of his game. Yeah. I mean, again, like I said, I think that at least from what I've seen, he sits quite deeper than he came up as, I think. Maybe that was like a raw quality that he had, again, when he was sort of thought to be more of like a 10 role. But anyway, yeah, he's a good player now. Here's Hudson-Odoi does a little sort of unintended 1-2. I think that was with Mount, and he gets a nice chunk of space right on the right side of the top of the 18 of United's box, and kind of comes to him quickly. He might have even been able to, I guess Fred was on him a bit there, but he traps the ball with his left foot. Not the best first touch, not the worst either, because it pops right up over to his right foot, and he lashes at it, I think I can say, and it was not really anything to worry about for De Gea. But yeah, I mean, United fans, let me know your thoughts on Ole's setup here. I mean, it's I get that you guys are the away team, but I do think that it is a little bit of a chess match here in terms of who is the team that should really putting their stamp on this game. And Chelsea certainly, again, with Tuchel coming in, he's unbeaten thus far, and things are certainly going well. But again, it's only 4 games, so it's not as if like Chelsea are seen as this dominant team in the Premier League thus far. We'll have to have a little bit more patience to see, how Tuchel plays with this Chelsea team. Here's Greenwood on the ball on the right side of midfield, and he loses out. Chelsea with some good crowding out. And there's Kovacic with a pretty poor ball over to Azpilicueta, but Azpilicueta does quite well to get his old creaking body over to the sideline to keep it in. And yeah, this is it is a back and forth game. It reminds me somewhat similarly of the previous watch along that I did with the Leipzig Liverpool game, where it was frantic, back and forth, lots of energy. I think Leipzig and Liverpool had quite a bit more ferocity and intensity, but similar in this game as far, yeah, I mean, a lot of poor touches. I don't even know what that was from Bruno. There's a little bit of pinball going on top of Chelsea's box. United sort of trying to knock at the door, but here's Rashford on the replay, plays it to Bruno. Bruno tries to play the ball. I don't know if he was intending to slice that as a through ball, but goes out for a goal kick. And anyway, as I was saying, Chelsea have more of the possession, but in terms of the passes that are getting pinged around, they're not. I mean, again, credit to each team defensively, respectively, for kind of putting that pressure on, but it is not what you would probably call free-flowing football. More of that, Jurgen Klopp rock and roll football sort of thing. So definitely an open game, and I can almost guarantee there'll be goals in this one. Kovacic with the ball, playing it over to Rudiger, and here's Chilwell into Mount, and Mount plays an ambitious ball that no one can get on the end of. He was looking for Ziyech over there, but I like watching Mason Mount just in general, but as I've been saying about the nature of this game that has been very, very pinball-like, as soon as it just Mason Mount's body language, that when he gets on the ball, he turns on it, he picks his head up, and he goes to play a cross-field ball. I mean, even though the ball wasn't great and it didn't find its intended recipient, he still just gives off this nature of, I know what I'm doing. Not even necessarily slow things down, but just this composure that really gives you this confidence that he might be that level above just intelligence-wise in this game, and we'll see if he can unlock a nice little pass on behalf of Chelsea. But yeah, I mean, pretty bold again, I don't think Tuchel knows his starting 11 so far either. I think he has a better idea of what he wants to do as compared with Lampard. But ball into Rashford, and there's a little tussle with Christensen, who is able to shepherd it out for a goal kick. But anyway, as I was saying with Tuchel, I think that, again, I think he's a very good fit for Chelsea, and I think that he has the resume to maybe withstand the type of criticism or questioning that he might get in the press. I mean, listen, winning terrible ball by Ziyech for Hudson-Odoi, there's a little bit of evidence that these players still, haven't played a whole lot together. I'm sure that would be a Chelsea fan's excuse for that ball. He picks his head up, and Hudson-Odoi was making a run centrally, diagonally, and Ziyech played pretty much the opposite ball out to the corner flag, and probably not even within 20 yards of Hudson-Odoi, who really was the only player making the run, ahead of the ball. But anyway, yeah, as far as Tuchel making making personnel decisions like, I think they said this is Chilwell's first start under Tuchel, which is interesting. And, I was listening to a podcast earlier this week talking about Marcos Alonso, who to me is just a fascinating profile of a player and a person, in that sometimes he is hands down the best left wing back in the Premier League, given his manager, and then other times he'll just be completely discarded and, he's old, or his defensive capabilities are definitely lacking. But it's just funny. I mean, it wasn't even 2 seasons ago where, I was playing Fantasy Premier League, and if you had Marcos Alonso, I mean, you were killing it every single week, because he does have great attacking capabilities. He does have great attacking capabilities, such as, free kicks and striking the ball, and, even just penalty box presence. I mean, he's a pretty good finisher and striker of the ball, but anyway, he wasn't a Lampard player, and yet here comes Tuchel, and he starts playing quite a bit. And so anyway, but Chilwell, I really rate. I think he's a great player. I think Chilwell is the type of player that will always sort of be like a top 5 Premier League left back, but maybe never at any moment the best. But yeah, I mean, he is a good all-around player. Into the comments, Irfan says, I feel like United are missing a hold-up center forward. I think I know one. Yes, I think I know the one that you're referring to as well. Goes by the initials RL. I've never really been a fan of Lukaku. I know that he's in a rich vein of form. I don't know. There's just, to me, he came up, and I was very excited by him, because he need to optimize your wingbacks in the modern game. Great points, says Irfan. Thank you. Glad that we agree. Anyway, as far as Lukaku is concerned, listen, you can't say that. I'm talking on my behalf. Obviously, I know, Irfan, you don't agree with me, since you're a fan, and I know he does have plenty of fans out there. But from my perspective, I don't like him really as a player too much. I cannot call him a failure by any means, although he kind of comes off as a failure. And again, for those that have joined me in past watch-alongs, I would put Lukaku in a similar bracket to like an Aubameyang. Again, I said similar things about Aubameyang too, that can you call him a failure? I mean, that would be very harsh. I mean, he's won the Premier League Golden Boot, but when you have players that are that talented, and yeah, I forget how I put this, but it's like he makes an impact. He scores the goal. He gets statistics, but he doesn't make the impact. Like whether Aubameyang is scoring 20 goals for Arsenal or not, it's almost like those 20 goals are invisible, because they don't really mean anything to Arsenal's season. He can score 21 goals for Arsenal and get the Golden Boot, and they finish 6th, or they can finish 3rd or 8th. It doesn't really matter. So, and I honestly don't even have the answers to that. This is my own opinion. So I don't, it could be a lack of leadership or whatever. And so anyway, I would say a lot of the same things about Lukaku is he came up sort of as this great hope, this like Erling Haaland of 2011, and that's not an exaggeration. I remember, because I was a freshman in college, and Chelsea signed him, and yeah, I mean, I thought he was dope. He's like this monster of a man, and it's just so interesting, because I think that comes up not a lot of times, because obviously he's like a freak body type and, a freak talent sort of thing coming up for Anderlecht. And he's 16 and he's scoring 30 goals this season as a 16-year-old. So that's just insane. And, he idolized Drogba. So his dream is always to play for Chelsea. And so it's a pretty cool story, even as like a non-Chelsea fan. But as I was saying, I think that when there is that sort of expectation and, he's big, he's fast, he's strong, he scores a boatload of goals, he can pass too. Like, people just start talking about players like this. And when a player like has everything, Paul Pogba, I don't want to get off topic, but I'll just sprinkle in Pogba's name as well, that Pogba has everything, but what does he excel at? Inconsistent player. So when you hear things like that, straight away, a red flag goes up, because I'm thinking like, okay, either this person is going to be Ronaldo o Fenomeno, the Brazilian Ronaldo, like one of the best players of all time. And, obviously we know players like that don't grow on trees. And so when a player has all of those qualities, he turns into like a Lukaku. Now, I know this is like a circular logic thing, because I'm trying to describe Lukaku and I'm sort of putting a word in its own definition sort of thing. But Lukaku just, his United career was again, similar to like I was saying, he scored goals. You look at his career on paper. That's a good way of putting it. If you look at a player's career on paper and it really shines, but he doesn't pass like the sniff test or the eye test. When I look at Lukaku, like, he's not an exhilarating player. I don't love to watch him. So to me, his career has been a little bit, it's been a letdown. I don't know. He's kind of floating in this like purgatory of like elite striker. Ooh, wow! Chelsea almost taking the lead there with the 34-year-old Giroud throwing his body for a diving header, trying to stretch and get something on that ball, and he just missing it. But his momentum takes him falling onto the floor, and I think he hits his back on the post. But I don't think De Gea could have really done anything with that had Giroud gotten a touch on that. Irfan said, didn't like the move at first either. He's talking about Lukaku to Inter, but he's a different player under Conte. And he said, only one R9. I completely agree. Growing up, my first World Cup was World Cup 98, and that was just a clinic from Ronaldo. I think the first game I ever saw Ronaldo play was against Morocco, and they wiped the floor with him. It was 3-0. And I just had that goal ingrained in my brain. Ball coming from like the left side of midfield, and the ball's bouncing, and it comes in and bounces right in perfect lockstep with Ronaldo. He like chests it. He does a little bit of like a hesitation. He has this like little awkward, but still so smooth step to set himself, and then he just rips it right-footed into the bottom left-hand corner. Beautiful goal. Night Falcon, welcome. I'm not sure if we know each other, but thank you for tuning in on Twitch. And he or she says, suddenly a soccer ball. Yeah, I've had it down here the whole time. But yeah, little footy action. Don't worry, folks at home, you're not missing anything. It looks like Rashford is limping now. I thought we were still on the Giroud injury break. Irfan says, he remembers that goal from Ronaldo. It was beautiful. And Night Falcon says, are you podcasting? I wouldn't really call it that. Well, maybe sort of live podcasting, if you will. This is a watch along with alongside the Chelsea United game. I'll just go into a little bit about myself. I'm broadcasting from Monmouth County, New Jersey. Back in August, I started a website to kind of rekindle a hobby of mine, which would be football and writing. I did have like a little rinky-dink column in my local newspaper when I was in high school, and it was just a hobby of mine. And I've always liked just putting thoughts down on a page. And it's not my profession by any means, but I watch these games anyway, and I know a bunch of my friends do as well. And about a year ago, I gave up on NBC broadcasting because it doesn't add really any value as far as I see it. And considering that, I watch these games and, sometimes I get people asking, can I show the games on my channel? Of course, that would be copyright infringement. So unfortunately, I cannot do that. But really the idea is to, just watch these games and have sort of live discussions during the games. It's not really about play-by-play, but rather to sort of discuss issues relevant to the two teams playing. That's a great giraffe portrait. LOL. Yes, thank you. I've obtained it from Home Goods. You seem to be full of energy. I hope your hobby turns out great and successful. I appreciate that, Night Falcon. I hope that you'll also, I hope that you're enjoying it, and I hope that you'll follow me on Twitch as you're watching. And let me know if you're a football fan as well, and where you're tuning in from. Still deadlocked though at 0-0. The pace of the game has still been maintained. It's not a dull one, so I am expecting some goals at some point in this game. And United picked the ball up. Wow, Fred turns into Kaká for a second, and he picks up the ball, starts driving at the defense, does a double step over, which seemed a little superfluous. And Chelsea able to stop that attack. It kind of squirms out to Shaw, who touches it over to Bruno, who attempts a bending effort, but a headed deflection clearance type thing by Conte heads out for a corner kick. And headed away by Piliqueta. Night Falcon says, I'm not that big into football, even though I'm Brazilian. How does that work? Well, it's funny you should say that again. And I also don't know how old you are, but I was just sort of breaking down, speaking of play-by-play, a play-by-play of the Ronaldo goal against Morocco in 1998. So a little coincidence there. Wan-Bissaka on the ball here. Wan-Bissaka is probably another good example of a very good player that I think over the course of his career, like I said about Ben Chilwell, will always be like a top 5 right back in the league, but maybe not ever the best. I mean, again, these things go in cycles and players go in and out of form and there are injuries and stuff like that. But I say that just to establish that there are certain times where the quality of the league goes up and down. And I think that this is about as weak as I've seen the Premier League, obviously with my team, Liverpool, suffering from a lot of ailments, however you want to define that. And then really just, I don't think that there's any other team in this league that's capable of winning a league, obviously outside of Man City. So, I'm saying between Man City and Liverpool, those are, I think, really the only two worthy Premier League teams. I'm sure some United fans will disagree with me on that, but people also said that Tottenham was going to win the league back in November. You can check my Twitter out for that, sort of laughing at the prospect of Mourinho winning another Premier League, the dinosaur that he is. Night Falcon says, are you only into football? Your style tells me you also skate or something. I appreciate that, but no, I do not skate. And really, I've only ever been a soccer fan. Never really been into basketball or baseball or football. I did play, so that definitely consumed and just kind of rinse and repeat. I always just spent my life playing or watching soccer. And yeah, I've been a Liverpool fan since I was 4. There's a family friend influence. It's actually funny. Well, actually, I say since I was 4, but probably even earlier than that, because when my brother, who's 4 or 5 years older than me, when he was about that age, when he was 5 or 6, he was playing soccer, and it was a coworker of my father's who was asking about, how's Brian doing? And this fellow was a British lad from Leeds, but actually a Liverpool fan. And so he would ask about my brother, and my dad would say, "Oh, he's playing soccer." And he said, "Oh, well, if he's really serious about soccer and likes it, he should watch and learn from the best." And so he was a Liverpool fan. Of course, he wanted to put that imprint on us and turn us into Liverpool fans. And so it was very cool. This is back in the mid 90s when there was absolutely zero Premier League coverage, at least television wise, in the United States. So we were given like 8mm tapes of match of the day from like 95, 96 season and 96, 97. So yeah, I go back to like the Robbie Fowler days of Liverpool, and that's my story. It's probably, Night Falcon is talking about the skateboard influence that I'm giving off. It's probably the turn back hat and the shoes. And those white Vans. Now these are Adidas. I don't even know what their name is. But mostly the hat. I used to play football as a kid. Oh, okay, nice. United on a little attack there, and Chilwell is able to sweep clear. But that was looking pretty open. United running with the ball, and Chelsea kind of retreating with some fear in their eyes. Not that I can see their eyes, but yeah, United kind of putting the burners on here towards the end of the half. There's 2 minutes of stoppage. So we have about 40 seconds left. Adidas, Stan Smiths maybe. I don't know. Not really a shoe guy, but there you go. Mendy trying to pass his way out of the back looked a little bit nervous, a little bit. Well, I was gonna say Allison, like in terms of sort of getting himself into trouble with the ball at his feet, and then things get a little bit nervous. But the one thing that sets Allison apart, despite being, I will say for the 100th time, the best goalkeeper in the world, Allison never gets nervous. When he should be nervous, he's not. He takes a touch and he thinks he might have a little bit more time than he should, and then there's this player, and then he just like pulls it back, and there's no real fear from him, which can definitely be unnerving. But all the best with him and his family. Obviously, terrible tragedy with his father, and we shall see. I don't even know. I haven't heard if he's going to be playing today. Again, anybody out there that wants to stay with me sort of all day, it's halftime here, and I will take a break, but I will be streaming the second half, as well as the Liverpool game at 2:15 here Eastern time, New York time. So anyway, with that, grab a drink, go to the bathroom, whatever you want to do, go for a quick 10-minute run, and I'll join you back for the second half. Cheers. What's up, everyone? I am back for the start of the second half. It looks like Reece James is getting some instructions from Tuchel, which tells me that he should be coming on shortly. And yeah, almost there for the second half. Here, let me throw up my promotion for my following my accounts at Beatty's Beat on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch, and search me, Google me on YouTube. It's probably the best place to follow me because I have all my archived watch-alongs there. I think they stay up on Twitch for 14 days. But anyway, that's where you can find me. United are coming out here for the second half, and they're doing some sprint drills to get the legs loose. Yeah, let's see some goals in the second half. Let's see. Alrighty then. We're about to kick off here. Let me get my clock. Oh. Yeah. And the game is underway for the second half, and the ref calls a foul on himself because the ball hit him. And here come Chelsea with Christensen out to Reece James. I'm not sure who James would have come on for. I guess it would come on for Hudson-Odoi, which obviously his name has been in the news for the last 7 days because he got double substituted on and off in the same game. And then Tuchel then not only did that, but went on to, this is him surely. Yeah, he's got a big ice pack on his knee/thigh region. So who knows if Tuchel was forced into that change. But yeah, there's been a lot of talk about Tuchel's criticism and bold, not only the decision to substitute him off after him being substituted in the first place, but then the decision to go on cameras in front of the world and talk about his attitude or his commitment, which, as a rule of thumb, I would say I am against. However, I do think that there are certain managers that can get away with it. And while I am not a Mourinho fan 7 days a week, there are certain times where, he certainly is a charming guy. I will dispute that. But Mourinho is one of those guys that can kind of get away with it in the media and use things to his advantage in terms of, shit talking players and getting a rise out of them. Again, you definitely have to pick your spots when you do that. And it can backfire on you, but I will give Tuchel a bit of the benefit of the doubt of, doing what he wants to do. I mean, he's the main guy in charge there, and, he can make bold decisions, but he's going to have to stand by them. One decision, as shown on the camera, is Timo Werner riding the pine. I think that's it. Here comes Chilwell raging down the left-hand side, and Ziyech gets a very well-struck finish away, and De Gea with a huge save, right-handed, as his body was going away from him, sort of a Jersey Dudek type save. So that was certainly a big play made by De Gea. And then it looked like Ziyech was going to get a second crack at it on the rebound, as it did come back towards the middle. But I think the United left back, Shaw, was able to get a touch away, and then it fell to Reece James. But his attempt didn't really amount to anything. So probably the biggest chance of the game right there, as well as maybe the Giroud missed header in the first half. I don't want to say that in a way that is sounding like Giroud missed, a chance that he should have gotten because it was just out of his reach. But in any case, Chelsea do seem to be threatening. I will admit that I put the NBC halftime show on. Oh boy, looks like there might have been a car accident right outside my house. But anyway, I forget what I was saying. Here's Mason Mount with a free kick about 45 yards from goal, out to the left-hand side to Chilwell, and United clear. Any United fans, really any fans of any teams in the chat, feel free to chat to me. I love. Oh wait, this is maybe a new feature that I wasn't even aware of. Oh, cool. All right, so I just learned something. I can display these chats that are coming in if I so choose. If there's an excellent question or comment that appears, I can give you guys the shout out. But anyway, I'm curious from United fans if anybody has a strong opinion on the Henderson versus De Gea dispute. And I have gone on record in saying that coming into the season, I would have gone with Henderson because I think that he's a hot young goalkeeper that you have on your books. I think De Gea is trending downwards. And from 2018 to 2020, he really was having a really tough, at certain points you could say he was the worst goalkeeper in the Premier League. He had that much of a plummet in terms of form. And I would have, I would have made the switch to go with Henderson because I don't think United are out of the woods by any means. They've stuck with De Gea, but out of the woods in terms of keeping Henderson. I wonder if United fans are fearful that he will leave because of the frustration of lack of chances. He's really only their cup goalkeeper, but he would start for, I would say, half the league, if not more. And I even thought that Chelsea might even put in a cheeky bid over the summer as they were seeking to replace or at least provide competition for Kepa, but that did not materialize. Daniel James, who I didn't speak about really too much in the first half, but surprised that he is getting the start. He really hasn't gotten all that much game time aside from when he first signed with United. I think it was the beginning of last season, and he started really well. But then United's attacking line has really been quite difficult to crack. But I think he's been performing well in the Europa League, so now he gets his chance, which also coincides with Anthony Martial being out of form. I'm just going to check for 1 second. I want to I want to check about the Cavani situation, whether he's on the bench, i.e. available today, or if he is suspended / injured. He has a muscle injury. So anyway, interesting that. Yeah, I didn't know that he wasn't available, but obviously Cavani has been a very good signing for United. And as I've said previously, I think you really got to credit Cavani. I'm not going to credit United. I mean, some people might think that that's a little unfair because I think United's signings have been extremely questionable, and I questioned the Cavani signing when it happened. And again, listen, he's 32 years old or whatever he is. He's not any sort of prospect. He obviously is a fully blossomed player. So it's not like I've never heard of this Cavani and United signed him and he's turned out to be quite a player. But instead, I would credit Cavani for really revitalizing himself and turning into a great signing. Because when they did sign him, I thought, this is stupid. United making another dumb transfer move, shelling out a bunch of wages to this player that he's had his time and is really not. I mean, similar to like the Falcao signing, that's probably pretty good equivalent. Another South American striker that was well past his best, but certainly Cavani has made quite an impact on this United team. I wonder, for United fans, or again, non-United fans, let me know in the comments who is United's second best player of the season. Of the season, I'm saying. I want to emphasis on that. I'm not saying, who has the best FIFA rating outside of Bruno Fernandes. Some people might say Rashford. Again, I think Rashford is too inconsistent for me. He has elite talent, but I don't think he's an elite forward in today's game just because of his inconsistency. I mean, he is a very talented player, but he catches fire and then he, becomes invisible. And he's been slightly above invisible, but in this game. So United fans will certainly want him to be more consistent as he develops further. But I don't even know how old is he. 23 years old. He might even be 22. He is sort of one of those players that has been around for a good 5 years or so. So sometimes you end up on the how old is this player? And then you get Jack Grealish, who's like 26, or like Mason Mount, and you're like, oh crap, he's still only 20 years old, and he's already nasty. So will be interesting to see. I've just mentioned a lot of English players there, how England fares for this year's Euros. I mean, it's always sort of hang on a second here while Mason Mount cuts inside. He was running down the right wing and then chops inside from his defender. And then I think it was Reece James making that same run, that same path that he was running in. And then he tried to flick it back out to Reece James, which is a nice little thought, but did not come off. And Chelsea's still in possession here in the attacking third. Now back to their defensive line, but United really penned in here. And as I was saying, it's always going to come up that, England have such a good crop of players. In recent years, it's been a lot of young talent. And but yeah, I think the most exciting players out of this England team they always like to focus on the young players because there's always the hope. It's the hope that kills you, right? And it certainly does kill England quite often. But yeah, I mean, I think the excitement really is mostly around Mount and Foden. And then you have more like senior members of the team, obviously, such as Sterling and Kane and Grealish. I mean, Grealish is sort of new to the England setup, but again, he is 26 years old. Here's Conte taking a crack from 20 yards out, and no real firepower on that at all. Here comes Bruno, and here, oh, damn, very annoying little spell play there for United fans as Bruno was really breaking about 3-on-2 or 3-on-3, and he plays the ball out to Rashford, who the ball was kind of coming laterally across the field, and he just needed a touch on it, and then he would have been able to go right in his path and have a real nice attempt on goal, but he missed the touch and the ball rolled out for a throw. And here's Mason Greenwood, and he just couldn't get his body fully around that. He nudged it onto his left foot and takes a left-footed shot as he's heading in the left direction, so the ball never quite whipped back around on frame. But definitely a good-looking goal there for another young English player. And, of course, I have to mention a young England player that I missed that could be the best of them all, Jadon Sancho. So, yeah, England definitely have a whole lot of talent. I won't even put it all on Gareth Southgate as the manager to put it together, because that is definitely a big job. I mean, it is his job. He needs to take responsibility for the team selection and tactics and all of that. But, obviously England are, okay. Fred is adding to his Kaká impression from the first half with a Zidane style Maradona on the top of the box, and McTominay gets a dropped back pass and a nice effort on goal, but Mendy comes up with I think it was a stomach save right there, and the game remains scoreless. So perhaps the commentator's curse. I've given this game, there's still half an hour to go, but it is turning a little bit into one of those games where you start to wonder, will either team really crack through and break the stalemate? Mason Greenwood out on the right-hand side gets a touch on the ball. The ball's sort of getting away from him, gets that classic 2021 touch to the ball, and then draws contact and goes down while the ball goes out of bounds, and he never would have caught it anyway. So yellow card given to Ben Chilwell. It's Bruno and only Bruno out on the right-hand side for the free kick. Another discussion. So as I fix my game clock, I think a really fascinating discussion, or maybe not so much as perhaps the answer is obvious, but I'm curious, what are people's shout for player of the season? Last season, well, the short answer, I'll give you the short answer. I think the short answer is that it is Bruno Fernandes. And the long answer, I think, it's Bruno, because it has to be Bruno, and I'm not, I'm not trying to be apologetic for it or anything. I think Bruno has been on fire really since he signed for United, and here comes Mount on the top of the box, and he cuts back. Oh, he's got to get a shot away there. I mean, he did that. It seems to be a favorite of his, is like the Lallana cutback, and he did have a second of space to get that shot away on his left foot as he kind of lost McTominay before McTominay recovered once again. And the shot is blocked on the edge of the 6-yard box. So that just goes to show you how much territory Mason Mount really made for himself. And yeah, I think Mason Mount is my man of the match for this game so far. It's really been lively and definitely an intelligent footballer. And it's interesting too. And let me just dive into the Chelsea signings for a second. I haven't seen Ziyech really play in a Chelsea shirt. I've been told on Twitter that he has the best, left foot in world football, such as his accuracy and pinpoint passing. But I haven't really seen, and maybe that's just me not watching Chelsea too much, but I haven't heard too much in the media necessarily about him being, terribly terrific. So I'm sure Chelsea fans will really want a whole lot more consistency out of, really all of their players. But Mason Mount, certainly every time I watch, has been quite a good player. So yeah, they'll want to see more from Ziyech. I mean, obviously Havertz really hasn't even been given a whole lot of game time for Chelsea, and when he hasn't really done very much. And here is the American savior, Christian Pulisic, coming on for Giroud, and so that'll be interesting to see what they do, who plays center forward, or if they're just doing a false nine type thing. I think there's sort of been some suggestions that maybe Tuchel doesn't love Pulisic, and another player in Christian Pulisic that could be Chelsea's best player. He really has gotten off to a great start, and I don't even know if it's a start just yet of his Chelsea career, because he's been around for maybe 18 months, but Pulisic really has been a great player for Chelsea. And yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to the first half, what I said with with just the consistency, but the talent that this Chelsea team has, that they really could be a title-winning team. And I've got a comment, or a question here rather, from, I think I know who this is, the Team Looks Alone account on Twitch. With Virgil out, who do you believe the best defender in the Premier League is? Very good question. Thank you to Linnell, I believe that was. And that actually pairs very finely with a topic that I just got off of the discussion with, is who is the player of the season. I think I think it's got to be Bruno Fernandes. I think that's a pretty obvious choice. I'm sure that there will be some people saying that it should be Ruben Diaz, given the impact that he's given to this City team. I'm more hesitant on that as far as giving him the player of the season. I don't think that he's done anything wrong necessarily, but he doesn't thrill me in the way that Virgil van Dijk does. I think Virgil, effort on goal from Fred, sailing wide of the top right corner, and Ole very weirdly smiling and clapping in somewhat of a manic way and giving a thumbs up as if Fred were his 9-year-old son. And they just worked on that move in training. But anyway, to answer your question, Team Looks Alone, I think the answer to that kind of has to be Ruben Diaz. John Stones has also had a renaissance as a player, but given this, that I'm calling it a renaissance, really suggests how out of favor he was at City, and therefore I don't want to rush into really heaping praise on him as far as being the best defender in the Premier League? But it's an interesting question, and I think I would open that up to really anybody watching along. Who do you think the best defender in the league is with Virgil out? I will not hear any answers in competition of Virgil when he is back and healthy, because that is not even a question to me. But I think it's an interesting. I think that is an interesting question. I think most people will give it to Ruben Diaz, but I also really challenge, and this is really a goal of mine with this watch along, with this chat, these live discussions, is to really challenge people to use their brains and not just regurgitate things that people hear in the media, because I think that happens way too much. I mean, how many times do you hear like, oh, who's the best center back in the world? And you get people saying Sergio Ramos, and, you know, or who's the best midfielder in the world? And you get like N'Golo Kante. Like, come on, this isn't 2016 anymore. It's not, you know, he was absolutely amazing for Leicester, a great signing. He was great for Chelsea right away. But I really do think that the game has moved on. And anyway, I don't want to get off onto a Conte discussion, but I mean, Conte is not one of the top 5 or 10 best midfielders in the world anymore, and yet you'll get people that will answer that question. And I kind of feel like, I don't know, you know, we used to call them like FIFA fans, and FIFA has become so like widespread, you know, these days that it might even take on its own like different sort of meaning. But yeah, I think so. Anyway, back to my point. I think Ruben Diaz probably is the best Premier League defender, but I think just keep watching the football, and you know, I'm not doubting him. I'm not saying he's going to go into a run of bad form, but I am very wary of heaping praise on players and then just trading on that reputation. And then, you know, and then you get comments like, oh yeah, Sergio Ramos is the, you know, best center back in the world, and he's 34 years old. It's like, or Thiago Silva. I mean, Chelsea fans, I mean, again, maybe they're just being biased and I shouldn't even listen to them, but, you know, they're putting Thiago Silva up there with one of the best center backs in the world. Like, what year are you living in? So anyway, sometimes it's difficult to hear kind of crazy suggestions like that. Team Looks Alone has another comment. Interesting, if you do a Google search, the next 2 people that come up after Liverpool are both, that come up after Virgil are both Liverpool players, but sounds like you disagree. I'm not exactly sure what you're saying with that in terms of who's the best defender in the world. Maybe I'll look into that, and I'd be curious who the next 2 Liverpool players accompanied. Next, who is the best defender in the world? I'm not really getting a definitive answer, nor does it really mean anything that if Google were to tell me that, I don't really know who Google is. Obviously, that would be attached to somebody's opinion. Oh, okay. So she's saying Robbo and Trent. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing too. I mean, again, in terms of opening your mind and really trying to address the true nature of a question. I think when people ask who the best defender in the world is, especially now tactically with how teams play, I mean, to me, the only people that really come to mind are center backs, because they're like true defenders, heart of the defense. Like back when teams were playing 4-4-2, or, you know, a more rigid like 4-2-3-1, and you have like outside backs, then yeah, maybe outside backs would come more into your mindset in answering that question. But yeah, I mean, Trent and Robbo, I mean, obviously are two of the best in their position. Yeah, they've had an up and down season, and Trent has really been poor at times. So I can understand why people would take issue with, if I were to say that Trent is the best right back in the world. Again, it's all context. I think it's very interesting, and I think you can have very intelligent conversations about these things. With, I could say, I think I'm well within my right to say Trent is the best right back in the world, and fully expect people to scoff at me and say you're crazy. He's been horrible this season. But again, it's taking into account the context of the question. When you say the best player in the world, are we saying the player that has had the best three weeks? And that's basically like the media cycle. So that's how most people, without really qualifying the question, I think that's how most people would naturally answer it. And people are so quick to judge these days that if somebody had, like, for instance, Allison, if he makes a gaffe, all of a sudden, oh, he's not the best goalkeeper in the world. I think that's balderdash to keep it clean here. But yeah, I mean, I think when you say somebody's the best player in their position, the best defender, best forward, best goalkeeper in the world, I think that's a really profound statement. So for me, I prefer to take into account the last 18 months or so to really get a valid answer on that. Whereas if I wanted to really commend somebody like a Patrick Bamford, like a player that has like a really strong month, I would say, he's one of the most informed strikers or something like that. But I'm very, I would say, stingy. Oh my goodness. Mendy really, there was a cross by Daniel James. Ball intended for Greenwood, but it should have really been a routine collection from the Chelsea goalkeeper. He is a bit not even fully outstretched. His hands are right there, and Greenwood was just a little bit too late to get to that ball. And so he was kind of just jogging off and not even looking back on the replay, because he figured that Mendy, nor would he really been able to put on the brakes and then come back and really have an effort towards the spilled ball. But Mendy not looking too sharp there, and it really looked, I mean, if you're a Chelsea fan, you probably had your heart in your throat for a second, because that would have been an absolute gift for United, or really either of these teams, to break the deadlock with a crucial mistake like that. But yeah, again, if you are still with us in this, 76 minute, then please do, join the fun in the chat, and let me know any comments you have on this game, or any of your answers to the questions that have been asked, in terms of who's the player of the season, who's been the best defender this season, considering Virgil is out. And yeah. Okay. 3 quick fire questions from Team Looks Alone. I guess we can't really be too surprised here. Number 1, best thighs in football. I'm gonna think about that, come back to it. Number 2 question, winner of the Premier League. It's got to be Man City. I declared the league over about 2 weeks ago, or maybe even longer. Yeah, I mean, and even as I said earlier in this stream, Man City and Liverpool really, I think, are the only true capable winners of the Premier League. And yeah, I mean, it is a shame. I don't want to get off on this because it's sort of a negative context, but I really do think that world football is struggling for really any dominant teams. I mean, you ask people who are the favorites for the Champions League, you're basically going to get two answers: City and Bayern, and that's also a very flavor of the week conversation too, because 5 weeks ago they were getting dumped out of their domestic cup by some team I've never heard of in Germany. And yeah, I mean, City's obviously been on a tear, but anyway, I'll save that discussion for another day. And number 3, team on the rise you are watching closely. Very good questions. Well, you're calling them quick-fire questions, so I'm guessing you want a quick answer on all of these. So best thighs in football, number 1. If this were 1994, I would say Paolo Maldini. He had thighs like I don't even know whatever is this thick. But yeah, let's see. I don't know offhand. I haven't been fantasizing about footballers recently, so it's not at the front of mind. Again, I'm gonna skip that a second time and come back to it. Team on the rise that you're watching closely. I would like a little bit more context to this. Is it like in the Champions League realm of things, or is it more so just like kind of a most improved and a team that I've really had to like take notice of? I think that answer probably has to be Villa. Any team that has been rising through the ranks and are a threat. Okay, so a threat to, I'm going to take it as Liverpool with the Champions League run-in, which Liverpool, I've been forced into a sliding scale of, oh no, Liverpool are still title contenders. We'll turn things around to people saying we're in a Champions League race just because that's the next thing that you can say. But I'm not worried about that in the slightest. But Liverpool fans are kind of having to admit that the Champions League is far from a guarantee, and so I will take the question in that vein. And I think the best 4 teams in England are City, Liverpool, United, and Chelsea. I think those are the 4 teams that deserve, and by a comfortable margin, to be in the Champions League next season. But again, I think without any real dominance from any consistent dominance from teams this season, again, apart from Man City, it's sort of hard to say that they're not dominating. But aside from that, United has been up and down. Chelsea have been up and down. Nobody's been consistent. So I think those 4 teams really deserve to win the Champions League places. West Ham has done well, but they will fall off. Everton will fall off. Arsenal and Tottenham are putting together like 1 or 2 wins, and I think that that's about all that they are capable of in terms of streaks. I think, yeah, if you look at the table, I think that people will tell you like, oh, Arsenal and Tottenham are in the Champions League race, and they very well may end up doing that. It's possible, but I don't see it happening. And so I think that sort of answers your question. I'm not the best at brevity, but I do think that context matters. I think Villa is a team that I'm really impressed with. I mean, they're right there with Arsenal and Tottenham in terms of like kind of surging up and chasing the Champions League places. So thanks for playing Quick 3 with Beatty. That's a new segment. I appreciate that. Maybe we'll have to play again next stream with the Sheffield and Liverpool game coming up. Actually, I'm going to jump on my phone, if I can find it, here it is, to check out the lineups, because that is obviously a game that I am very interested in. No Allison with the LFC squad at Bramall Lane. Okay, so understandably, Allison is not going to be playing today with, still lacking a best thighs answer. I apologize. Sorry, it's so awkward to transition between those two things. Allison, of course, without the Liverpool squad, having a personal day due to the death of his father. So best wishes for him. The best thighs answer. I need help on this one. The best. I'm just gonna go with James Milner. I don't know for sure. I mean, if you said best Cavs, that answer would be so easy, and everybody across the world knows that would be Shaqiri. I mean, actually, let's go with Shaqiri because Shaqiri's legs as a whole are insane. So I'm going to go with Shaqiri on that. But Milner, I threw in there because he's just got his fitness is sick, considering that, well, not even considering that he's 35, but that's just the cherry on top, the fact that he's 35 years old and he is absolutely ripped. Here comes Pulisic with a shot, an attempted shot on goal, but not on goal. The right-footed shot soaring over the bar. Shot was from about 20 yards out after a nice little run for Pulisic. Yeah, Pulisic's an interesting player to consider in the fact that, of course, a lot of Liverpool fans were hoping and sort of speculating that he might come to Liverpool, which I think was a whole lot more on the hope side of things as opposed to any sort of truth in Liverpool seeking to sign him. Obviously, he had played under Klopp at Dortmund. And at the time, and this is interesting because I'm really just going through my thoughts on this on the fly. I haven't really thought about the concept of him coming to Liverpool since he really signed for Chelsea, which was, I was basically in the no thanks camp of signing him because, and I think he's changed his game a bit. And maybe it's just like the tactics of like what's going on around him. I'll get to that in a second, but he used to be more of a like winger and then get in like around sort of like the back door and run, if he's playing like left wing, come up the left side, down the sideline, up the byline, really running towards the 6-yard box. And that's a really awkward thing for defenses and for goalkeepers alike. Yeah. Computer charger. So as I was saying, that's a really awkward space to take up for a defense or a goalkeeper. Sort of similar to like going behind the goal and like the wraparound in hockey, I would think. I'm not a hockey fan. I'm just spitballing. But anyway, but it's not really, you don't see a lot of players doing that. Like it's sort of a nice trick. I don't know if that comes off as like offensive to him, but not really like applicable in every single scenario. And so I didn't think that he was like the best fit for Liverpool. And also, I did have some concerns about his physicality, obviously being a very being a smaller player. But as tactics have evolved, that's much less of a concern. In the Premier League these days, there's quite a few of very small, and even going back to like Juan Mata signing for Chelsea, that's like 10 years ago. But anyway, zoom head to like right now, I would really, I'm about to read out the Sheffield and Liverpool lineups in a second because they are out. But on the topic of Pulisic, I think he actually would be a really great player for Liverpool right now. Now, I don't think he's attainable, and Chelsea wouldn't sell him, but it's just the prospect of it, and also Liverpool's struggles currently. He takes the ball and he just runs at defenses. That's what I think Pulisic's best. I don't want to call it a trick, but his best move, his best recurring thing that he's good at is he takes the ball and then he runs at defenders, and they sort of like bounce off of him, which is just very strange. I don't know. It's just a weird like experience, behavioral thing of players that if they can do it, they're just very tricky for defenders to handle. And I don't know if it's he's so small, defenders don't want to foul him or whatever, but he does really run at defenses really well. And I think that that's something that I've said about Liverpool players, and you'll hear it again and again from me, that I think we need more of those like Curtis Jones type players to take the ball, and in the absence of, if nothing is an obvious great pass to make, then you just run at the defense, and that's going to put them into shock a bit, because here you have this Curtis Jones, this Steven Gerrard, Michael Ballack type figure that's running toward your defense, and you need to sort out the immediate danger. And that's something that Pulisic does really, really well. And he's been very successful with at Chelsea, hence his goal haul that he has been able to achieve at Chelsea thus far. And we are winding down to the end of this game. Not sure how many minutes of stoppage there will be, but commentator's curse does not look like there's going to be a goal in this game, despite I probably would have bet at like 4 goals or more, given the way that this game started. But nevertheless, the Liverpool lineups are out. So for anyone interested in the Sheffield lineup, it is a 3-5-2 with Ramsdale, Ampadu, Jagielka, and Keane Bryan. I've never heard of him. Starting right to left, Baldock, Lundstrom, Norwood, Fleck, and Stevens, with McGoldrick and McBurney up top. So not really anything that scares me in that Sheffield team. I mean, it's really more of the team as a whole. The unit that, again, Sheffield hasn't really been, Sheffield's really struggling to say the least this season. 11 points, and they are surely down at this point. They are 15 points from safety. So that will definitely be a mountain, and I'm going to say it's impossible for them. So anyway, oh God, for the Liverpool team, we've got Adrian. Every Liverpool fan, I'm sure, would have preferred to see Queven Kelleher, who is not even on the bench, which tells me that he is injured as well or unavailable. So then you've got Rabo, Nat Phillips, Kabak, Trent, Gini, Thiago, Curtis, and the famous front three of Mane, Babe, and Mo. So we will get to, well, I will be ending this watch along and starting a different event. So please do stay right where you're at. If you're on Twitch, I think it'll just pop up there live. But anyway, I do appreciate everybody joining me for this watch along. The past 2 watch alongs I've done have had 1 goal in 180 minutes. So I'm thinking of my Uncle Rich, who is not at all a soccer fan, and has always said, and he's not the only American to say, that there's not enough scoring. So as well as a buddy of mine, Conrad, also in that same camp of not being a soccer fan, put it this way, that soccer is just a sequence of things almost happening. And it was quite hilarious because I was over his house in the 2014 World Cup, and I think it was Brazil versus Mexico. And I think that game was 0-0, and somebody hit the crossbar, and I exclaimed and hit as I hit the crossbar, and he said, "Oh, it was. Let me guess, it was almost a goal." So that to this day still makes me laugh. But I feel sorry for any of those that don't love the beautiful game of football as I do. It's such a great sport, spectacle, drama, soap opera, all of the above. And the top 5 is City on 62 points, United 50, Leicester 49, West Ham 45, and Chelsea 44. So it'll be interesting, this top 4 race. It does seem like more teams are sort of dragging themselves into the relegation battle as well. But I will call it time here at Beatty's Beat, this stream along, and join me in another half hour for the last game of the weekend, Sheffield versus Liverpool.